Okay, so looks like I'm live. I found a photograph of Florence that I took many years ago when I was on holidays over in Italy, and I found a bunch, quite a few actually, that had nice sort of light sources. So even back then, I was looking at this juxtaposition between light and dark, something that I search for in a lot of reference photos, and it's difficult to find at times. Often you have to actually take a reference photo you find from Pixabay, some of these free reference photos websites, and just modify them, change the light source, or even add in a proper light source, because sometimes it's just very soft. Could be an overcast day. So this particular scene here, I think, is nice because you've got you've got a very strong light source coming from the front of the scene. So it's kind of like the front left of the scene. So you still get a little bit of shadow to the right hand side, but moving towards the back. But the great thing is that you've got these little shades here to the left. So these little shades of the small corner shops there that catch a bit of that light, and I want to emphasize that. So it's going to be an interesting little scene, and I'm going to get started with the drawing already, but it is 6:30 p.m. here in Melbourne. The sun goes down really late these days, about 9:30ish, so it's sometimes, it's a little bit confusing, but anyway, hopefully we'll finish this painting before the sun starts to dip a little bit, because sometimes the light source, this lamp that I'm using, I have to adjust it here and there. Can see a bunch of you there on YouTube and on Facebook. If you're watching along and you're new to my channel or my workshops, say hi in the chats. Let me know whereabouts you're watching from. And yeah, basically how I run these things is I go through the whole process. So we're going to go through the drawing, we're going to go through all the painting steps, the 3 different painting steps. I'm really going to simplify this down for you to make it easy, and this isn't going to be a really put together scene where all the little details come out. It's going to be more of a sketch. So I do a lot of these little sketches, and the reason why is because often they turn into larger paintings, and even if they don't, they often look good by themselves, and they give you really good practice. Okay, so I'm putting in the line down the bottom, and this is the line essentially where all the buildings touch the ground at the back. Okay, so there's a little bit there. We're going to need that because we've got a person here and a bicycle. We've got a car, we've got people here on the right-hand side walking through. Ooh, that's why. Yeah, that's a good point, Nugu. And I think I've forgotten to set the privacy properly on YouTube again. Let me see if I can change it to public. Okay, it's public now, I think, on YouTube. I did this last time and I accidentally set it to private, so you should be able to see it now on YouTube. I was wondering why there was no one there. Anyway, it is online. Let me know if you managed to see it on YouTube, Nilgun. I've changed it to public now. And you've got Keith also here. I thought you might show up, Keith. It's your favorite subject, or one of your favorite subjects. You're back in Italy, apparently. So, fantastic. Well, good to see you. Whereabouts are you in Italy? Did you go back to the same... You exploring somewhere different this time? I know you went to Lecce and another place. I can't remember. But the places you went to last time sounded really cool, because they're not... they weren't really any... Yeah, there weren't, very touristy sort of places, which is sometimes a relief when you go to all the major cities and you just want somewhere that, that has less tourists and that's a little bit more private. Maybe see something that's not so common. So good to see you, Keith. I've got Foolish Wine says working on YouTube. Okay, that's awesome. Alrighty, so I am going to go ahead and like I'm showing you here, I'm just putting a line down the bottom, and guys, this line down the bottom is just where we're going to put all the cars and stuff. There's actually a car here already. I'm so tempted to draw it in, but let's hold off for now. And I would say this line is one of the most important steps you need to get right. The reason being is, if you put this line too high, you're not gonna have enough room for the buildings and the sky. If you put it down too low, you're not gonna have enough room for the pedestrians, the cars, and stuff like that. So you really need to look at the scene and think to yourself, okay, I can figure out where the middle part of the scene is. Okay, if you draw a cross through the center of the paper each ways, that's the center. So from the center of the scene, whereabouts is that line at the back where all the cars kind of start driving in from the back and the buildings at the back touch the ground? Estimate that and put that in. It's not a quarter, it's about a little bit less than a quarter in this particular scene. So that's where I put it in. Very important. And I'm also trying to find patterns in this photograph, and I took this photograph, which makes it a little bit easier. I framed it at the time, you know, for good or for worse, depending if you know what type of photography you like. But I think I was just taking a quick snap at the time. But it just so happens that it's a coincidence maybe that the center of the scene, that building, right, you know, the separation of the buildings where the buildings on the left and the buildings on the right kind of come together is smack bang in the center of the page. This makes it a lot easier to now draw everything in. So I'm going to put a line in the center of the page like that. Okay, so this is now going to be that building that all the way out in the back. And there's all kinds of buildings here. You can see here there is another building going up, okay, to the side. Tricky to sort of draw in the little bits and pieces of the rooftop. Okay, but a little bit of that. As you can see there, this building there coming in from the back like that. This building here is kind of like a rectangular shape, if you see. It's a bit of this rectangular shape there at the back. I'm always trying to find ways to simplify a scene down, because if you don't do that, you're really going to get lost in this jumble of details. And you know, that's the rooftop. Some of this might have to be altered. And Keith says he's in Lecce, but off to Nardo to house hunt. Ooh, that sounds exciting. A nice little holiday house, eh? I hear the property market over there is really good. I mean, I don't know. Probably not as bad over here in Australia, but we have probably some of the most expensive property here. It's pretty full on. It's pretty full on. I think a 1-bedroom apartment in Sydney costs something like $600,000 or $500,000 to $600,000, which is madness in my opinion. So yeah, I have a couple of friends who are living overseas that they're just enjoying their lives over in Bali and living over there while this madness continues. But anyhow, we've got Aggressive Koala here in the chats on YouTube. How you doing? Good to see you again. And I wonder who's actually painting along, drawing and painting along today with me. This isn't a scene that I've done before, okay? So I really am not 100% sure how it's going to work out. But because I've done so many street scenes before, and like I said, there's a simple, I wouldn't say maybe a simple process, but there is a, you know, the process itself is simple, but the execution of it does take practice, does take a lot of practice, okay? But it is a 3-step process. Okay, so I'm just putting in this building here in the back, okay, just to the one to the right. Okay, let's get the back in like that. You know, here we have, you know, we've also got this larger building to the right. This is interesting because, yeah, look, I mean, it's difficult to really tell what is going on in that building. There's all these little bricks and stuff, and almost the whole part of the building is lit up because the light is coming from the front of the scene, going backwards. So, but there is some differences in details, slight differences in the left side of the right side of the building. Left side of that building all the way in the front looks a bit darker. Actually, in fact, I'm confused. That is another building in the back. Yeah, that is actually another building in the back that I hadn't seen. So let's just forget what I said. Let's just draw this line coming all the way down like this. And this here can be that building all the way in the front to start off with. But in the back, we do have another building. Okay. But I do want to get in this other sort of, you know, what should we call it, building here as well. And I remember this, I remember walking through here. This was a few years ago, and there's all kinds of artists and people just on the street selling their artwork and painting. Lots of watercolorists around this area. Obviously, it's a very touristy area, so they can make a few bucks selling their work in here, down on the streets. You just see them, some of these local artists down over in Rome as well. And okay, there we go. We've got some kind of semblance of a street here, the right hand side of these buildings. There is this, I don't know what this is, like some kind of, it's a garbage can. It's a garbage can. Do I want to put that in? I don't know. I might just leave it out for now. Keith says it's good. Aussie prices are California prices. Yeah, I think it's actually even seems like a good idea. If you're over down in Italy fairly often, I mean, makes sense. I hear that you can get some places down there for maybe like 150, 175 or something like that for really nice near the water. So yeah. Aggressive Koala says, can't paint yet, Darren, just watching. House is in a mess. Oh yeah, I remember you're moving. Yes, I remember you're moving. So yes, what a stress. It's one thing I hate, and that's moving. So I hope it's you'll be over it soon and settled in. I wish you all the best. Okay, so here we go. I'm just putting in that building. I'm being a bit vague, and so there are basically, if you look at the right hand side, there's a building right in the back, that kind of orangey reddish color building right in the back. It's burnt sienna, I suppose. Okay, there, it's got the roof, and then you've got this other bit of the roof of the second building just in front of it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 in here. Okay, but if you don't have to get in all of these exactly, okay, because at the end of the day, this is all just going to combine down into some basic shapes, and we're going to indicate the details on here, but I'm not, I'm already spending way too much time than I should on these things. But I also just want to practice some of my detailing and working on a bit more of the structure of those buildings. Okay, you've got here, these little perspective lines, as you can see, on the buildings themselves. So this is a nice little way to indicate the perspective of the buildings. Just tiny little lines running through the back of the building like that. Okay, like that. There. So you can just see roughly, it's like a basic 1-point perspective scene where you've got a vanishing point here, and then all the lines basically going towards that vanishing point. Okay, so let's go ahead and look, I'm trying to get the buildings in first because I always find they're the most challenging part. If you manage to get the buildings in fine, then the rest of it's going to be a lot easier. But the buildings just tend to take up, obviously here, they take up a lot of room. So I try to get these in first and get them out of the way. And these buildings as well, not your typical buildings, not your sort of city buildings that you see in a lot of, place like Australia or even in the States where, they're more skyscrapers and you can just condense them down all into one. They actually, there's actually a little bit of nuance to the architecture. So, all right, let's not overthink this, Darren. We've got the side of one building here. Let's just put that in like that. Okay, good. The front of it like that. The longer you spend on these, the more detail you're going to be able to obviously get in. So it all just depends. It all just depends on how much detail, how loose you want it to be. I'm also checking out, see the rooftop of this building. I'm also trying to match that rooftop a bit with this one here. Okay, just seeing to myself, is it too tall? Is it too, even this one, I reckon this one could be a little bit taller, like that, maybe. Okay. Just bring this up a bit further. The paper that I'm using is a touch a little bit longer than the photograph itself. So that's why it's kind of a little bit taller, all the buildings. So that's something you always have to take into account as well. Okay, so that's the side. What have we done here? That's the side of the building here. Okay. And I'm really overthinking this. This should not take me this long to draw this in. Okay. There's another side of some building here behind, whatever it is. There's a little rooftop there, maybe. Like that. Good. Okay, then we've got another building coming into the left here. Let's simplify that down. And we've got this larger sort of, I mean, there's so much going on, but look at this. This left-hand side, you really have to put in a bit more detail here because we have the detail of these little shades down the base. Okay. Let's just do this one. The top of that building like that looks to be some kind of structure on top there. Like, is that a chimney? Looks like a chimney maybe. Another, square block, rectangular block. Looking at ways that we can, simplify this down, yeah? Looking at ways to simplify this down. This goes all the way back there. There is another sort of structure like that. You've also got a window here. Let's draw in an indication of this window, like this. That nice little window. And a petty artist is asking what kind of tape I'm using. This is just normal masking tape that I got from my hardware store. So got a pack of 5 of these for about $6 and worked completely fine. Sometimes you want to get the more expensive stuff if you're painting for a long period of time. This stuff, because I only paint for maybe a couple hours max, and I have left it on for even a couple of days before, works completely fine. Some people use, what's that other stuff, gum tape I think, but I don't bother with it. Masking tape's done well for me. And let's continue on. This window, I really like this window and how it has this yellowish, can you see this nice yellowish frame to it? Beautiful sort of frame. That would look nice, especially contrasted with the reflection of the blue in the window. It's a nice complementary colors like that. There's another kind of, ledge there and a bit of shadow coming down the side of the building like that. Okay. Good. So now we have a good sort of separation between this building in right at the front left area. And we're going to have to get this in with a bit of accuracy, guys. There we go. That's the side of the building. A little bit of that in the sunlight, as you can see there. But here on the right-hand side, it sort of cuts through, and it goes just kind of downwards as well. Okay, great. Just want to put it in roughly there. Okay, so the shops and that kind of thing. Okay, so we've got, looks like a lamp just coming out from the building like here as well. Let's just put in the lamp as well. Indication of the lamp. We'll fix that up later with a bit more finesse. And here the signs of the shop, and there's another sign of the shop here. And of course we've got these shades. I really want to make them more obvious. I'm going to enlargen them a little bit like that. And of course this one here as well, check that out. It just kind of goes all the way into the back of the scene, and it's also creating a slight contrast between we're going to have some light coming across it, but it's going to contrast against this darker kind of background. Very subtle, very sort of subtle, but I like that part of the scene. I wish I wish I had taken it, maybe a closer up shot of that, but we'll be fine. We can make do with this. And the side of the, that's the side of the road here. Here we have the, the pathway that goes in to the scene, like there, comes out like that. But it's your basic kind of 1-point perspective if you think about it. Okay, basic sort of 1-point perspective. Maybe I can actually just do those lines a bit differently. Maybe I can get them going all the way to the back there like that. Something like this. Yes. Yep. Okay. Good. Now, here we have some more details. Now, this figure in the front, I'm putting the head in kind of like a rectangular type shape. Let's put in the details of his body. He's just sitting here. His body's like a rectangle, like that, just a rectangle. Arms outstretched with t-shirt. Okay, just like this. Simplify this down. And we've got a bicycle here. Look, I'm just trying to simplify this as much as I can. We've got a circle at the base, and then we've got that sort of stem attached to that area. And then we've got the frame of the bike here in the background, sorry. Another wheel at the back, and we've got his leg coming out there, maybe. Good. Coming down. Another leg just behind. Okay. Just simplify this down. I don't want that to take up a whole heap of detail in this scene, but it is important to have these figures here because they really make the scene look more lively. You need to have people in them, especially with a nice street scene like this. Okay, just have to redo the top of him a little bit. Connect that on to his hands, these handlebars of the bike. I'm just making that up now. Yeah, I'm not really, as you can see, not really detailing much in there, but we'll figure it out as we go. It's all just darkness in there anyway. We don't have to bother. And the shadow runs towards the back like that. Something like that. I just indicate that quickly. Okay, we've got a car here just in the middle of the road. Let's put the car in. That the windscreen. We've got the bonnet here. The bonnet of the car. There's a couple of lights there. The front grille of the lights and the car plate there. And of course the dark sort of color underneath, the dark shadow underneath the car there going towards the back. This is going to be important for later. Okay, but you can actually see a bit of the side of the car, which is important for you to get in. Okay, a little bit of the side of it there. Okay, what is this? This is the police car. I think it's a police car. I'm going to just make a normal car. There is another car behind. Oh, it's a little bit too tall there. I should have made it something like this, around the same height, because I want it to imply I want to imply a flat plane. Okay. Alrighty. So there's that car in the front. I'm very tempted maybe to put in another one. Let's try. Let's put in another one. I'm just going to copy that one to the right and see if we can get away with it, because I don't know. I just think another one would look interesting. Just having a couple of them together here at the front. But I am careful not to overdo it. I tend to get excited and then put too much going on back there. But there's a figure you can see here that this could be a person just getting into a cab or something like that. Not that I really didn't see many cabs around there, so, but maybe Yeah, just a bit of that. Darkness underneath the car as well, like that. Check that out. Looking decent already. And we have two people here. Let's put the people in, and I want to just maybe detail a little bit more with them here. They kind of look like friends walking into the scene. Okay, and they're a little bit, I'm going to make them a touch closer to the front of the scene, so that way I can just detail them a bit more. This guy's holding a bag. You can see his arm just slung around like that. He's got another arm and elbow there coming towards the front. You know, shorts and you know, just legs like this. Okay, there's one person. There's the other guy here to the right, you know, just walking through. You can see his hand there, and the other, he's kind of got this arm around another bag, like a duffel bag or something like that. He's got this kind of linen shirt on or something, shorts again, and you know, just legs coming out the front like this. Maybe just put this leg kind of coming out the back a touch more, just make it look like he's walking into the scene. So here's a bit, these figures look a touch closer, and I like that because this is going to just allow me to tell more of a story, whereas in the scene, you know, you notice that they're more of like an afterthought, the photograph. Okay, but I've made them bigger, more part of the foreground, along with all this other stuff here, the cars and all that. You know, we've got this garbage bin here. Don't know, do I want to put that in or not? Could always put it in afterwards. You know, over here, there's also another, you know, a bike. Someone's just stashed their bike here. And you wouldn't do this around Melbourne in the city because someone's going to nick it. It only take a few seconds before it's gone. Disappeared. How we all going, everyone? I do see about 10, 12 people watching. If you're new here, and yeah, if you're just watching along, drop a comment in the chat to let me know where you're watching from and how you're doing as well. Just about done with the drawing. I think we've got a good indication in terms of like, in terms of the detail of the drawing. I'm happy with it. I think we have enough there to go by, and yeah, I think we definitely have enough here to go by and to work with. There's enough detail without just obviously going overboard, I think, with the buildings, because I tend to get that way sometimes with these buildings. And another thing I like to do is I like to sort of emphasize and change stuff as well. So here in the back, you know, this building here, I just want to change it so that I can maybe see the side of that building more, like that. Don't know, it's just something I want to try out. Just the side of that building, maybe like that. Make it come down, extend that one out a little bit more there. There's all these things you can do. You can even change towers so that they look more, they look taller and stuff like that. I've done that in the past in order to balance things out. Okay, good. So guys, I think we are ready to get started on, on the painting. So, yeah, let me know how you're doing today. If you're new to the show, I'm Darren Yu. I'm an artist watercolor artist from Melbourne in Victoria, and I've been running a lot of these workshops. Check out my Patreon as well in the video description and in the chat. Patreon. I also have a 70 course program that is quite popular. And Anna says, "Thank you. I've been using my blue tape. Doesn't work." Yeah, you've got to use, you definitely want to use masking tape because it's waterproof, but when you peel it off, it's not going to just rip into the paper. Some tapes you really want to stay away from, you know, like stuff like Scotch tape and, you know, those plasticky kind of tapes. You want to stay away from those. I find that they just ruin the paper. So, yeah, trust me on that one. Okay, so we've got a bunch of brushes that we're going to be using. These are mop brushes. You're only going to need two types of brushes, okay? Mop brushes and a couple of these synthetic brushes. So mop brushes are brushes that I use to basically get in the larger areas, larger washes of color. You know, we've got the sky, we've got the sides of the buildings, you know, we've got the ground, for example. Large areas that we need to be able to pick up a lot of paint without having to continually go back to the palette over and over again to pick up more paint. So these are the brushes that I use to do that. They've got a large belly, pick up lots of paint, but they also have a sharp tip, so that allows you to cut around shapes and not turn this whole thing into a mess. On the other hand, I do have these smaller brushes. So these are synthetic brushes. I've got a round brush and I've got a synthetic flat brush, and I might also use a rigger as well, just to get in like small edges of windows down in the background later on. So you can see here, these are kind of detailing brushes and we use them later on, but generally I use these three first. Probably not this one because it's too big. All right, so let's go ahead. We've also got Marilyn here from the UK. Can you tell what type pencil you're using, please? So the pencil I'm using is a Staedtler 0.7 millimeter pencil. So I got this for I think I got this for a few dollars when I was in Japan. So you can get these online. They're a few dollars off Amazon. And I really like this pencil because, one, it's made of metal. It's got a nice bit of weight to it. There's something about it, having a bit of weight to that pencil, that just gives me more confidence. Yeah, when I'm drawing with a really light pencil, sometimes, you know, I find that it's just got a mind of its own. You know, it's not a big deal. I draw with anything. 0.7 lead because it's a little bit thicker than normal leads, and stops me from overthinking things, over detailing everything to ad nauseum. So let's start getting in the colors of the buildings first. Now I always start with the buildings for these particular scenes because they're so bright and full of life. So I want to make sure that I really get an indication of that in first, because I find if you're not careful and you don't emphasize these buildings, you might actually mix up some green accidentally later on. That's something I've done in the past, is when you go in to get the sky wash in later, you know, it's very easy to just accidentally put in too much color in there and mix up like a tiny bit of that blue into your yellows. So look, this is just a little bit of yellow ochre, and I'm mixing up yellow ochre and a bit of lemon yellow here. All right. For this building here in the front, I'm just picking warm colors to simplify things down. Yeah, I don't want to obsess over this. Right. This is a bit of quinacridone gold. Let's drop that into this shade here, like that. All right. And this shade to the right, I'm probably just going to leave that white. Completely white. See if I can resist the urge to paint that in a different color. It's always so difficult to leave in colors, you know, but you have to do it sometimes, right? With watercolors, it's often what you leave out that ends up being the light in your scene. So I've got a bit of titanium white here. Titanium white, and I'm just mixing it in with the yellow in some spots, because the building, it's, you know, it is a little bit blotchy in areas. It's not doesn't look perfect, but and this is just going to make it look a tiny bit more aged, you know, rather than just one color that permeates through that whole scene, the whole building. I've also got some other color. This is like tiny bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of burnt sienna. I thought I can just drop into here as well. Keep things interesting. Okay, let's keep this bottom area wet. We'll come back to this in just a moment. What we want to do is, again, just focus on these buildings and get in a nice light wash of color. And it's all just a combination of different yellows, guys. I'm not really thinking all too much about this. Just some nice light yellows. The wash that I'm using, okay, is about 5 to 10% paint, and the rest of it is just water. Okay, so I'm using mostly water in this particular scene. Okay, and I follow the same process with almost all of my paintings, because often things look really, really, too weak at this stage, but that's what you want. You don't want there to be a whole lot of darkness in here. Okay, I'm just dropping in a little bit of this color. It's burnt sienna, a little bit of burnt sienna, because this building is actually, it's kind of brownish, maybe reddish or whatever, brownish reddish. So I want to just alter the hue slightly. Again, create variation, but it is still going to be, as you can see, it is still very light and warm. Okay, let's drop in a bit of yellow in there if you think it's getting a bit too much browns. That. And here we go. I'm just going into the background now, cutting around, and this mop brush is so good because it allows you, like I said, it allows you to cut around things. In the background, I'm going to pick up some yellow. Let's drop in some of this lighter yellow color. And I'm already starting to lose some of that vibrancy of the yellow. It doesn't matter because it's in the background anyway. It's kind of a lot more duller. I don't want to draw too much attention to the background. I only want to make sure I've got some color back there to indicate the warmth of those buildings. But I don't want to overdo it, if you know what I mean. Okay, there we have it. Those buildings out in the back. Let's put in the ones to the right now. This one is an obviously burnt sienna, kind of like a reddish brown color. So let's drop some of that reddish brown color in like this. Okay, get in the rooftop there of that building, comes down. And put in a bit of yellow as well if you think it's just a bit too much. Cutting around again, everything. Okay, these buildings to the right again start to get really warm, and I'm mixing in a bit of white here as well. It's kind of like becoming a Naples yellow in some of these buildings. They're very light colored, that's for sure. Okay, so as you can see, I am just simplifying this down, getting it all in with a few brush strokes, cutting around the figures, and mixing, allowing all these different values and different colors to just mix and combine together, because that's where you get some magical combinations that just happen without you actually painting them in. So again, coming up to the front, I'm just going to put in this burnt sienna, this nice little wash of burnt sienna. So it comes down. Oh, I've got to be careful here. Paint in a straight line there. Okay, not bad. Just get this burnt sienna sort of building, colored building here in, because it does get a bit darker. See there? Just this building here just looks a touch darker. Just get that in like that. And in the foreground, this building here in the front just becomes more kind of a warmer color, warmer yellowy, yellow ochre kind of color. So let's just put that in. Whatever yellow I have left on the palette, I'm just dropping that in here. Get it in quickly. All right. Fantastic. Now the ground is a kind of a grayish color. I'm going to mix up my own gray for this, guys. I've got myself some ultramarine blue, which is a darker sort of blue. Bit of ultramarine here. Bit of ultramarine. A bit of perylene red. And this is going to make a purplish color. Perylene red. Ultramarine blue, and this is a nice purplish color, as you can see here. But once we grab some of this yellow, let's drop some of that yellow in. Bit of this what you call it? No, that's too much. Actually, that's okay. It's got quite a grayish color now. This is just a bit of Hansa yellow. Now let's test that. Okay, not bad. It needs to be lighter though, something like this. There we go, that's better. It's a very sunny day, so we want to really ensure that there is a lot of light still shown on the ground. All right, so that's why I am being careful not to create too much darkness here. Look how I'm just joining on the ground with the buildings. This is something that's not really spoken about much in watercolors, but you have to find ways to connect your painting up. Okay, the background doesn't suddenly stop and just turn into the foreground. There are connections that you have to find, like that. Okay, that makes for a more cohesive looking painting where it just looks better, where your eyes can just go through the scene and there's no rough breaks between the foreground, midground, and the background. Here we have the sky, and this is probably the easiest part to do. I'm just going to pick up some of this. I squeezed this stuff out recently, actually. This is a bit of cerulean blue. Okay, it's about maybe 20% paint. 20% paint, and the rest of it is water. Oh, what a lovely cerulean blue. This is a bit of some new stuff I picked up from Holbein. Actually, I really like this. It's quite, yeah, it's a nice smooth blend. I'm not sponsored by any of these paint companies, by the way. Let's go pick up some more of this stuff, mix it up. Here's the issue, you know, is having to mix up your colors. You know, you want to, if possible, guys, you really want to make sure that you've mixed up enough paint so that you don't have to continue going back over and over again, because every time you go back and mix up that color, there's a chance that you'll mix up a slightly different combination of it, and it's not going to sit right. But for colors like, yeah, for colors like this, for colors like cerulean blue, because it's such a light color anyway, doesn't make a big difference. Okay, drop some of this in there. Oh, it's really nice and smooth. And I think that's because the cerulean blue I was using before was a little bit blotchy. Sometimes you do get a dodgy mix of it, because cerulean is a granulating kind of paint, and if the paint company they don't whatchamacallit, mix it up and grind the particles fine enough, you do get sort of quite a lot of blotchiness and weird areas in your painting. All right, so look, and as you can see, some of it has mixed into the sky from the buildings. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Just let it do its thing. You know, if you want, you can even drop in a cloud or something up the top. I'm always tempted to do something like that. Just make the top a little bit. I'm going to make the top just a touch darker. A little bit of... too much. A little bit of ultramarine. I just want to mix up a touch of ultramarine to just blend into the top to make it a little bit darker. Okay. Because I do find, generally speaking, if you make the top of the scene a touch darker, the blue at the top of the scene a bit darker, it will look better perspective-wise. Because as you notice in the scene, it actually starts getting lighter as you go down. Because this part of the scene is essentially closer to us, the top. Okay, difficult to get a soft blend up there. Okay, so I reckon I'll just leave the sky as is like this. I'm so tempted. I usually go in and start putting in, some other darker clouds and stuff like that, but I'm gonna resist this time round. And we've got Marie here from the UK, and love quinacridone gold. Yeah, it's such a great color. I've got a bit of it here, and you can see just that beautiful golden color in there. Indian yellow is also a similar color. I find that you get that nice, golden quality of color. And quinacridones were initially, from what I understand, they were initially invented in the automobile industry, and made their way over into paints. Okay. Yep. So they're just going to put in, see this blue for the window area. I've forgotten to just chuck in a bit of that blue there. Good. This is nice. It kind of looks, as you can see, just nice juxtaposition with that yellow. So I want to preserve that blue all the way to the end. All right, so guys, what else do we have to do here? I mean, we're pretty much almost done with the first wash. Probably another thing that I like doing here and there as well is just putting in a bit of color for the figures. And you know, for example, this one here, I'll put in a bit of color for the shorts or something that this person's wearing, like that. You know, we've got a bit of a darker shirt or something like this for this figure here. I'm just putting in a little bit of darkness in the shirt, but it's still a lot of water. I mean, it's mostly water that I'm mixing up in here, okay? Mostly water. And, you know, jeans, got some blue jeans on. Let's just put in a bit of that for his leg, coming up like that. Simplify this down. Yeah, nothing too fancy. Remember that we're getting in a lot of these darker colors later, so we don't want to, I don't want to overdo any of this stuff before it's due, so to speak. So I forgot to get in a little bit of color there, but hopefully that will help. Figure here in the back also, he's wearing, let's get in a bit of blue for the shirt, like this, nice little bit of cerulean blue. Okay, that's good. Maybe I can get in a bit of blue for this car here, this windscreen. You know, a lot of these windscreens anyway, they're just gonna be darkened down. But I thought I'd drop that in just in case I decide to get one in a different color. And, you know, here's some guys wearing some pants. Obviously, he will need to be wearing pants. Let's just put in a quick little wash like that with the shorts. I'm going to mix up some color for the arms and the legs. I've got a bit of red and a bit of, you know, you can also, with different skin tones, I use burnt sienna. I use red, any kind of red, and yellow. And those three together, you can mix up most skin tones. You can also mix in a bit of blue as well. Okay, but I'm just putting in a bit of kind of general color here, like sort of reddish, I suppose. Here for the arms. Look, there's a bit of the arm here and there. Why not put in a bit of the head as well, like that? Oops, it's gone into the body, doesn't matter. But the key here is I'm just trying to keep it really light. The legs. Bit more yellow maybe. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much it for the first wash. Now, if you've done everything the way I've done it, you should pretty much be ready to go into the next wash almost straight away, because all this stuff in the background has pretty much, yeah, it's pretty much almost dry. But I will give it a quick, or will I? I'm just thinking. I'll give it a quick little dry actually. And you notice as soon as you dry things off in watercolors, they appear a little bit lighter. So that's something you always have to take into account when you're painting, just to make sure you end up with the right value. Hey Pamela, good to see you again on YouTube. And Foolish One's asking, are you a musician as well? I see guitars. Yeah, there are some guitars back there. Yeah, I used to play piano when I was a kid, and I sort of stopped as you know. My parents, especially my mum, she was really wanting me to learn piano. I think it's an Asian kid thing, whatever they say, it's true. It's basically true. So I was playing piano as a kid, didn't really like it, and I said I didn't want to do it anymore. So my mum, this was when I was, I don't know how old, maybe like 13, 14. She said, well, you have to learn something. So I ended up picking up drums. Wasn't so good at that. And then I ended up trying guitar and enjoying that. So I've still played guitar these days, and not to the extent that I used to. I used to be like really obsessed, really obsessed with guitars. And what did I play? A lot of like Led Zeppelin, 70s, 80s kind of rock, heavy metal, but now I just play a bit of acoustic stuff. I don't plug in the amp much anymore. But yeah, that's a good observation there. I'm in my apartment, so you can see bits of the stuff going on there in the background. Okay. And I'm just having a look. We've got also Dee McAdams says, enjoying your painting. Awesome, Dee. I haven't seen you here before. You're new to these workshops that I'm running. Okay, so guys, let's move on to the next step of this scene, and really what we want to do here is we want to now paint in all of the light, the darks, all the darks is what I'm trying to say. So all the shadows I try to just get in once, and we're going to mix up a nice color, a nice dark color. And here is some ultramarine blue. Okay, the same stuff that I have before. A bit of perylene red. This is going to make us some purple. Okay, maybe a bit more blue in there. And you can see I'm mixing up a lot of it because I don't want to continually have to go back. And a bit of this color, a bit of this Hansa yellow, drop that in there. Let's mix this all together, and this should come out to some grayish color. I've got to put too much yellow in there, so just going back with the blue again, a bit more blue. Okay. It's kind of like a brownish color, isn't it? I do want a warmer gray color. Slightly warmer gray color to imitate this. Yeah, because the shadows are kind of warmer in color. Let's just try that. It's too dark, but I can always just add in a bit more water to this paint. Okay, it's with dark paint, you're really always trying to get the right concentration, and it doesn't take much really to get that darkness in here. So you can see the front of this building, it's just dark here, and you've got a bit of something here like that on the front of the building there. Right, there is actually a little bit of light on the top of that building as well. That what we're trying to do here, guys, is we are trying to leave out some of the light where possible. Okay, it's difficult to see exactly where it is, but this side of the building is where it's the most obvious, and you can get this whole thing in at once. You can see, look, just get that side of the building in. But notice how I've just left a touch of color, touch of light on top of some areas. This helps to create little sparkles, little highlights of colors here and there. Even with this lamp here, I've kind of just almost got obliterated the whole thing, but I'll just leave it somewhere there. And we got to be a bit more careful as we move down here now, because this is where we have those kind of shades. I want to mix in maybe some purple. I've got some purple. This is a little bit too browny, funny sort of color. So a little bit of purple. I just want to change this up a touch. Okay, here we have like a sign or something like that. Here's another sign. I mean, they're all just really in the dark, aren't they? There's not much going on in there. But we do see, like for example, these shades. I want to make sure I preserve the light on them. So let's cut around them very carefully. Smaller round brush. This is going to help us out better there. Okay, like that. Okay. A little bit of that light still coming off, and I will work on some of these shadows, because you can actually see there are some shadows near to the on the shades themselves. I'm going a little bit darker underneath these shades as well, and the reason why is because we have some of these figures here in the background, cars and all this kind of stuff, and there's even more figures and people at the back that I'm just indicating very quickly. I hadn't noticed them before, but there are some people back there. We can always put them in afterwards anyhow. But yeah, anyhow, this is now the second building, and I'm just making it a bit darker here. Don't worry as well if you accidentally eliminate a lot of this light, because we can bring it back afterwards too. So don't worry too much. The big thing is to make sure that all these shadows and stuff just join on with each other. Okay. Coming up here, I'm using this flat brush like this. I've got a mixture of all these different paints, but essentially it's just a grey colour. Okay, if you think about it, there's not much you need in there. I'll just leave a little bit of the yellow. You see how I've just got a touch of that yellow sticking out? I thought, why not just try that? Because you might get a bit of the light just catching on to some parts, because it does look too kind of stark in there, and there's not much. I'm worried that if I color the whole thing in the same color, it's just going to look really boring. And you know, the purple is great mixed with this yellow, because it helps to create a bit more contrast, and the complementary colors as well. This chimney here, look, I'm just something simple like that. I don't even know what I'm trying to do here. Just a bit of that chimney there. There's one here too, just the top of that chimney like that. Okay, a lot of this stuff actually we can do afterwards, but why not just do some of it now, because it's going to look more, it's just going to look more natural if we can blend it in with the rest of the shadows. Okay, good. So we also have a bit of this shadow coming in here. Where is it? It's like there. Complicated shadow, but I want to get this all in one go. Alright, so like darker, just a shadow pattern coming in from the left hand side of the scene. Don't worry yourself on this, by the way. You know, just give it a go. Right. And bring that down. Let's have a look. What else do we have going on? And I'm using a purplish color mixed in with that grey, kind of like a warmer grey on the palette. there is a bit of darkness underneath the window, that sort of shade thingamo. Join that here with a bit of the shadow of this building. This then joins further down like this. Okay, so we got a bit of that, a little bit of that shadow pattern. I mean, it's, I think I could have done better, but that's the gist of it. That's the gist of it. Okay, all in one wash. That's the way to do things, if possible. Okay, this side of the building actually comes down all the way somewhere like here, where this figure then pops out of the dark here. Okay, a little bit more light. I'm just going to turn on my light. Okay, and let's continue on to the back. Yeah, let's continue on. Let's get this out the way. You know, I one of the things you guys will notice is I just, with the shadows, that this shadow wash, it's all painted. I've tried to paint the whole thing in just one go. Yeah, and if you manage to do this, you will find that the scene that you're painting will look a lot fresher. And not only that, you're going to save yourself a headache of having to continually go back into the wash again and again and again. If you can simplify the wash down, the second wash here with all these darks, into just one big wash, tell you what, that was probably one of the biggest game changers for me, because I found that the more I kind of went into the watercolors, try to fix this up, change this, change that up, it just ends up getting worse and worse and annoying, and really annoying me. So okay, we're almost there with the left side of these buildings. Now where the bottom of the buildings are, this is where I'm just going to drop in a bit more darkness, a bit of this is just a bit of neutral tint, maybe with some blue mixed in there. Okay, like that. Check this out, just a bit of darkness where we've got the cars and stuff. Good. And buildings to the right, this is where we actually have a lot of shadows and stuff on the buildings, but you can see it actually, a lot of them are just in light. So you've got the side of this building here to the back, but it's just the rooftop, underneath the rooftop, just like that, a little bit of that rooftop. And I'm going to join it up to the left hand side a bit here. Okay, but you can also use something like, you know, I did mention the rigger brush. The rigger brush is going to help you out in times like this, where you've got so little room and tolerances, because I'm painting pretty small here, that I can just indicate, I don't know, a few of these little notches for the windows, okay, without overdoing it. Just a few little, that probably wasn't, that's not the best work, but it's in there still. Yeah, there we go. Some little kind of details back there. Let's put in some shadows, some little shadows as well on the building. You can see there are some darker shadows just cast here that join on. Look at that, just trying to simplify these down, these shadows. They cut around the cars as well, see? Create a bit of darkness back there. Okay. Fantastic. So the shadows then blend a little bit to the buildings on the right. And really for all these buildings, you're just indicating a little bit of the darkness, okay, on the tops of the roofs like this. Like just a bit of that maybe. Here as well, there is some little details like that. Anything that will just indicate the light source, but not eliminate, not eliminate the light, essentially. Oh, what's this? It's like a little ledge or something here. Simplify this down. This is tricky. This is a really tricky scene with all these buildings here in the back. And, you know, it's deceivingly... It looked a little bit easier to me, but when I sort of get into it now, there's so much to take into consideration with all these tiny little windows and bits and pieces here out in the back. But we can simplify them down. I'm not in the mood to detail really today and to spend my evening laboring away at this. So we can just use this little brush and check this out, get in a little bit of this texture of the building, the side of the building, like that. But still preserve the light, as you can see, on the side of these buildings. So maybe like a downward brush stroke here, like that. Good. Now at the base, I think what I'm going to do is put in a little bit of like darkness in areas like here, just to cut around the figures a little bit as well. Could be like a doorway or something here, you know, just a little bit of darkness and stuff, so that the figures stick out of there a bit more. Okay, this building here is a little bit like, this should be a bit darker, so I'm gonna just pick up that same kind of grayish paint, like a warmer grey paint, and I'm gonna just darken this building a little bit. Bit too dark at the top, but doesn't matter. We got it. Okay, something like this. All right. Good. Now, let's start working a bit on these cars and the really dark sort of shadows in here. Neutral tint, just whatever darks you have in here. I do have a bit of bluish color mixed into it though. Now the bottom of the car, I'm just going to put in dark, okay, just a bit of this darker color. Check that out. This is really, for me, just meant to emphasize the shadows, this darker sort of shadow going all the way behind the car like that. Okay. And the windscreen as well. We can maybe get in a bit of darkness for the windscreen. You don't have to do this for all of them. A bit of that windscreen like that. There. The car at the back is pretty much, yeah, in shadow. It's very difficult to see what is going on in there, but I can indicate like the windscreen and underneath the car like that. Simplify that in the distance. Okay, and that will kind of cut around and create a bit of contrast from that car. Here, let's put in some details for these lights, just details of the car. Yep. Here we go. the grills and bits and pieces of the car. We don't need to really detail it too much. Just the shadow underneath tends to be the most important thing. Putting in that shadow. And of course, like maybe a little bit of darkness to the right hand side of the car because of the light source coming in from like the front left hand corner, maybe like that. There we are. There's a bit of that car now. Good. Let's put in some details for... Let's put in some details for these bricks and stuff, actually. The shortcut that I use... I don't usually do bricks and that, to be honest. I'm pretty basic with them, but, you know, you can just paint them in kind of like with a square brush like this. Flat brush. Okay. Hopefully just a few little marks here is going to help, but I don't want this whole thing to just be filled with bricks. I can't be bothered to put them all in, and plus it's going to actually start, if you're not careful, it will start to detract from the rest of the scene. But because it's so close to the front of the scene, you know, a little bit of detail can't hurt. It's all, these bricks are all different colors as well. Some of them are darker, some of them are lighter, you know. So I'm just mixing up a few different colors, concentrations of paint, okay, to do this quickly, like that. All right. Okay. Here's this guy on the bike. I'm gonna put in the bike now, just with this little rigger brush. There's the front wheel. That's the back wheel there. And bike frame, like something like that maybe. The handlebars, like this. Yep, handlebars. Bottom of his legs like a little bit darker here. Just paint some of that in darker and combine it on with the bike. The fewer brush strokes I use here, the better, honestly. That's another bike there, kind of coming out of the scene. Just be efficient with this. A few little brush strokes should do it. Same thing goes with this lamp here. Oh, probably go into that later. It's not completely dry yet. Okay. Let's get the shadow in. I will need a slightly bigger brush maybe to do this. Okay. Something like that for that bike or whatever in the background as well. There could be some other... This is what I'm thinking as well, whether I want to actually get in another shadow coming through the front. I'm really tempted to, because I think it's just looking too stark out the front. And if I can emphasize that light a little bit more, why not? Yeah. I'm just trying to put in maybe some of the spokes of the bike, the wheels, again, but not to over detail. Oh, so guys, I had an issue before. The stream the stream had just froze, and I didn't realize that the thing wasn't working. So I'm trying to connect back again. That's no good. Give me 1 second. Shouldn't take too long. Okay. But yeah, apologies for that. I don't know what happened, but the stream just conked out while I was painting. But there's a few of you still watching. If you've managed to find the stream again, yeah, hopefully you can let me know which part that I got up to before the thing disconnected. Yeah, I think a few of you have lost where I was up to. Let me just see in the video where it was. Yeah, I was getting pretty close. I think I was doing the figures as well. Okay. All right. So basically, guys, I have done some of the detailing on the figures here to the right. So what have I done? I've put in the shadows for the legs. Okay, and I've also put in a little bit of the darkness in some of the clothing as well. I was going to do a bit here at the same time, like this. All right, so that yeah, we've got a bit more contrast between light and dark. Another thing I want to do is just add little details of the bag that this person is carrying as well. So just a little bit of this darker line out the back. I'm picking up some really dark paint, and let's put in that bag like this. Just a backpack or something like that this person is carrying around like this. I've saved all the really dark colors for this section, for this part of the painting, because it allows you to really bring out those final contrasts and get in little bits of details, okay, which actually are quite difficult to get in. Okay, can you all see and hear me okay? Let me know in the chats. I think, yeah, I've lost a lot of people on Facebook. I don't think they've found the new stream. For some reason, when it conks out on Facebook, it doesn't send out a notification again. So yeah, that was no good. I took a little bit too long to realize what had happened. I was sort of doing my thing. Okay. Great. Okay, aggressive koala says I'm fine. So yeah, hopefully you guys didn't miss out on too much. I think it cut out roughly when I was starting to put the figures in on the right hand side. And you know, like I was saying, these figures are you're just putting in a bit of color, tiny bit of color on them to bring out the darkness. You know, the hair, check this out, just putting a bit of hair in this one. This one now kind of looks like might be facing forwards, like coming forwards. Can you see? I kind of like that one. It just looks, now it's changed the story a little bit, so that it doesn't look like they are walking together, but this is someone that could be just walking next to this in front. I get the bag. Maybe I'll get like a bag in here as well, like that. He's carrying some sort of bag. Why not? Like this. Okay. All right. Now here comes like the other little bits and pieces, tiny little bits and pieces. Okay, good. I think you guys are you guys have found the stream again. Marie's found the stream back on Facebook. Yeah, it cut out before, did conk out while I was painting those figures in, unfortunately. So you did miss out a little bit on those figures, but yeah, as I was explaining before, I really, at the end of the day, I'm just painting in the shadow underneath the figures, a little bit of the detail on the figures as well. So the shirts, the bag that this person's holding, that kind of thing. So, you know, I'm just going a bit. I'm just having a bit of fun here, painting the shadows. And here, look, you can actually see some little shadows on this shade of the. See this kind of thing over there, a bit cutting across. But I don't want to get rid of all that light there. Just a little bit. Tiny bit like this. Touch it with my finger. Okay. Good. All right. What else do we have? There's a little bit of darkness on this one as well, just like running across like this here. Okay. Yeah, and basically like in these buildings you'll see that there are just some dark spots for the windows, so we can just put in, that's a window, for example. You know, this is like a sign or something here, yeah, like I don't know, some part of the building there, you know, there's can just paint in little details like this, and this slowly but surely, you know, begin to imply details in there, and you're using really the darkest paint, darkest colors in order to do this. But at the same time, you're leaving some of that previous wash so that it's not all completely dark. You know, you've got elements of that previous darker wash in there as well. That's really going to help. Okay, look, I'm just picking up bits of paint here and there, guys, and drawing, indicating in these little details, like this lamp, for example. Just thought let's just paint that lamp in there. You know, simple, just a quick little thing like that. Quick little thing like that. You know, in the window, look, there's bits of the frame. You know, you can just go ahead and paint in bits of that frame of the window. This is where your drawing abilities do come in handy. If you're going to do what I'm doing here, just make sure you don't go over an area too many times, you know. Just try to put it in, get that wash, get those dark spots in there, and then just leave it, okay. Here as well, look, there's actually some dark spots underneath this part of the building. Can just drop that color in again like that. Any place that you see some additional darks that weren't implied in that previous wash, I mean, this is your opportunity. You drop it in. That's all you need to do. Just a little indication like this. But it does help to bring out the light a bit on the sides of the buildings. Well, you know, here's a bit more, this building here. Like, I'll just try to drop in some more colors for this back end building, you know, some verticals as well. This could be some windows or something up the top there. You know, look, just a few more bits and pieces we can imply. Okay. And guys, the more, like, tell you what, the more confident you can paint those brush strokes, they just look, for one, they look straighter, but they also blend in a bit better with the rest of it. Because when you've got a lot of these, like, looser sort of scenes like this, and then you suddenly go in and you put too much detail into one section, the viewer's eye is just going to be drawn to that section, and it's going to overwhelm. So look, just a little bit like that for like some windows. Okay, if I can quickly get a lot of this stuff done, I'd prefer that, because I'm kind of doing too much in my opinion already. Okay. All right. Yeah, this one's turned out okay. I mean, I've done better. Definitely done some better ones in the past. I reckon if I was to give it a go again, I'll just be a lot quicker with some of my brush strokes, and yeah, do that second wash faster. But when you do a first run of a scene, you always find that doesn't go exactly the way you planned, but that's the great thing about these sketches. You just learn so much. I like the figure here in the front, this cyclist, you know, the details of that bike. Quite like how I did that. These two figures here, and the cars, I reckon like where I could have improved is just blending it all together faster, like the 3 washes. So I don't think I'm going to touch this one anymore. I'm just looking at it, you know, I'll take it off and just see how we went. But let me know how you guys all went today. Hope you enjoyed the workshop. And yeah, again, it was a bit annoying that the thing conked out halfway, but look, we made it through at the end of the day. So if you're enjoying my workshops, do consider supporting me on Patreon. The link is down in the video description. So there's 3 different tiers, and there's a tier that's just $2 a month if you want to support me on a general basis to continue making these workshops. I've also got other tiers, 2 other tiers where you get a lot of my bonus courses in there. Great value. There's also a 70 course program that I run. So just check it in the video description, or check in the video chats, and you should be able to find it there. If not, just message me and I'll get back to you. But here we go. That's the scene we did today, and I think that's pretty much it. Do you guys have any other questions? Just let me know if you have any more questions before we finish off today. And there is a question from Foolish One. Says, Darren, how do you store all these paintings after you're done? You must have so many now. Yeah, you know where? Let me show you where I put them. I keep them in these little these little things here. So I don't know where to put them. I don't know where to put half of them. Some of them I sell, but a lot of them I just keep in these little, whatchamacallit, containers, like plastic containers, folder, what do you call them? Folders, paper folders. I really like this one. This is one I did the other day of, where is this? Somewhere in France. Okay, and you can see the difference there. My brush strokes were a lot more confident, and the wash, you know, I did it just faster. Even this wash here in the front. So that's another one as well. God, I've done quite a few. And also, I just wanted to show you the difference. This is hot pressed paper versus cold pressed paper. And can you see the difference with the hot pressed paper? The paper it's a lot smoother, and it allows you to get in so many little details, but it's very hard to get in these nice soft blends. And here, like this sort of stuff here in the bottom of this Paris scene here. So hard to get in that, you know, with this hot press paper, but you do get just clarity and contrast. You know, initially I started playing around with hot press paper because I thought to myself it's going to be, I actually ran out of cold press paper, and so I only had hot press paper and so I picked it, and I actually enjoyed using it. It's just harder to control. Okay, Marie says, make it look so easy. Mine just looks like buildings going through demolition. I must try again. Yeah, this is actually a pretty tricky one, Marie. So don't be disheartened. Give it another go. I don't think I did particularly well compared to some of my previous workshops as well. But what I do like are the figures, the person on the bike, these figures to the right, the cars. Yep. But the buildings, I really had some trouble simplifying those buildings today, but I reckon if I had a second go at it, I'd be a lot more confident. Okay, now that I know where the light patterns are, okay, and perhaps exaggerating some of the features of these buildings as well. Okay. But that's pretty much it for today. I'm really glad that I tried this one out. It was a tricky scene, that's for sure. But Sue says, Sue's here as well. Sue says, I love it. Thank you, Darren. Join your Patreon. Can't wait to get started. That's awesome, Sue. And, you know, you've got all the great thing about Patreon is that I put a spreadsheet of all the previous workshops I've done. So you can go to that spreadsheet, and on there it's got a reference. It's got the reference photo used for each workshop, and it's also got a stencil that I made that you can trace onto your watercolor paper if you don't want to draw. And I can understand if you don't want to draw, because especially when you've got scenes like this, pretty full on. But thank you, Sue, for your support. And I think that's pretty much it, unless there's any other questions. I'm glad some of you managed to make it back to the stream. I think quite a few people were lost, don't know that I've started this new one. But you know what? Yeah, it does happen sometimes. Anyway, I will end this one off. Thank you again for coming along, and I'll catch you next time.